Good afternoon, Congressman Khan. It's a pleasure to meet you outside Twitter. And the rumors are that there is now a tribe in Balochistan called Unrepresented. Seriously, the kid's going to be named Dana, but it means something else in their language. I was asked to speak on Pakistan, and much has been said. And for me, talking on this subject is based on the fact that it is almost like a parasite implanted in the very foundations of human civilization, or one could alternately say it's a termite that could end up destroying human civilization as we know it. We are not dealing with the Soviet Union, we are not dealing with Timur, who destroyed 7% of human civilization. We are not dealing with the Mongols invading Abbasid Baghdad. We are dealing with a death cult possessed with nuclear bombs. We are dealing with the Jim Jones, who has taken on the KKK as its identity. Among the community of almost 200 countries that inhabit the earth today, no other place has offered more fertile soil for international jihadi terrorism than the country of my birth, which is Pakistan. If the 20th century began with the rise of revolutionary fervor and will be remembered for the dawn and the dusk of international communism, the 21st century began with the declaration of a worldwide jihad on human civilization by the forces of international Islamofascism, and I use the word very carefully, not as a slogan, but as a reality. And what Islamofascism sought to accomplish was what the Nazi mentors and the Bolshevik counterparts failed to achieve despite deploying the mightiest armies that ever existed on the face of this earth. The difference between Nazism and communism on one hand and Islamism on the other is that while the dictatorship of the proletariat and the forces seeking international Aryan supremacy over the rest of us wanted to rule us, Islamism seeks an Armageddon. It literally desires death, not life. For the Islamists, life itself begins after one dies, not while one breathes. By the way, let me clarify that I make a very clear distinction between Islam and Islamism. Islam is my religion, while Islamism is a political doctrine that utilizes my faith as a tool to implement a fascist death cult. Many have wondered, and this is particularly, I'm glad members of Congress are here. I come from the left, sir. I've shouted many a slogan outside an American embassy, and some even have witnessed that. But many have wondered how the United States and its allies were able to defeat the Wehrmacht in less than 5 years, and the Warsaw Pact without firing a single shot, but has failed miserably to quell an army of cave dwellers and desert riders after over 10 years, $1 trillion of military effort costing tens of thousands of American lives. Perhaps the answer lies in the fact that during World War II and the Cold War, the United States and the United Kingdom and their allies were not funding their very enemies, as is the case it is today. Can you visualize or imagine a Marshall Plan to boost Hitler as a way of appeasing him? Try to visualize a President Kennedy endorsing Comrade Khrushchev as America's ally against communism. Because this is what President Bush and Obama and the two White House Secretaries of States and the Chiefs of Staff have managed to do so far. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm referring to the tens of billions of dollars that the United States has given to Pakistan, who it has erroneously placed in the category of its allies, while Pakistan takes that very American money to host, fund and finance not just Osama bin Laden, but international terror, subversion in India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand, and right here in London and in my country, Canada, and of course the United States of America itself. From Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's 9/11 plans to the recent recruitment of jihadis in Burma, from the Toronto 18 to the London 7/7 bombings, from the Mumbai attack of 2008 to the hosting of Mullah Umar in Quetta, fingerprints of Pakistan-based jihadi groups and ideologies are ubiquitous. Only the blind, the deaf and the dumb would go over these fingerprints and say, I no speak English, therefore I can't see. There are too many American ambassadors and congressmen who are being fed by Saudi hosts with shrimp cocktails and Ramadan dinners. Let me quote one of my favorite senators in the United States, who I campaigned against, sometimes illegally as well. That's Senator John McCain. This is what he said. The United States of America has been incredibly patient with Pakistan, and we have been so despite certain undeniable and deeply disturbing facts. Most importantly, Pakistani army and intelligence officials continue to support the Haqqani network and the terrorist groups in Pakistan that are killing US troops in Afghanistan. And the vast majority of the material used to make improvised explosive devices used against the US forces in Afghanistan originates from 2 fertilizer factories in Pakistan. That is quote unquote our very own Senator John McCain speaking in a hall where nobody listens. On November 23rd, 2011, the Washington Post ran a lengthy story discussing the source of crudely made inexpensive bombs that had been used in Afghanistan to attack American troops, injuring 3,200 by that point in the year 2011 alone. Lieutenant General Michael Barbero, who heads the US military unit created to stem US casualties from insurgent bombs, identified the problem as ammonium nitrate coming from these 2 fertilizer factories. Now listen to this. When General Barbero wanted to meet the owner of this factory, this bomb-making facility, what surprised him is that he didn't have to go to Pakistan. That SOB lived in the United States of America. Not only that, all his sons were being educated at Stanford and Harvard, and he lived there. While Nuruddin cannot get a damn visa to enter the United States, that SOB has a home there while he kills American troops. I mean, I don't mind being anti-American. I have a problem being stupid. The very person responsible for the death of US soldiers was getting his sons educated courtesy of US universities and academics. Now imagine, try to visualize this, folks. Easy English. Imagine Stalin and Hitler's kids studying in Harvard or Oxford and flaunting their dad's contempt for the US or UK. You think Churchill or Roosevelt would have allowed that damn thing to happen? You think that Kennedy would have, JFK would have said, oh fine, Stalin's daughter Svetlana, well she defected. That's a wrong example. Khrushchev's idiot son, we will train him so he can go back to attack our embassy? What is this Obama? What sort of a woman is Hillary Clinton? I mean, she's smart, but she's dumb enough to have a Muslim Brotherhood person as a chief of staff, and nobody can say that? To say that we are lunatics because we pointed out that Huma Abedin has been involved with the Muslim Brotherhood for 25 years and was born in Saudi Arabia, in America, but was taken to Saudi Arabia because the boys of America would be bad for a Muslim girl and the tyrants of Saudi Arabia would be good for Islam? What sort of people have we created out of USA? Nutcrackers. Congressmen, nutcrackers, really. I'm sorry, I get carried away. But today Pakistan stands as the motherlode of the terror problems of the West and most of the civilized world. Perhaps the UK and USA are ridden with guilt, for it is they who had a hand in the creation of this rogue state, carved out of India to serve their purpose of containing the Red Army just after the Second World War. But if they are still not cognizant of the threat this nuclear armed bully poses to the region and the world, then heaven help us. The question often asked is, who penned the partition of India? Who was responsible for carving out Pakistan as a country that seems to have an insatiable appetite for bloodshed and that has been responsible for or associated with more acts of jihadi terrorism than any other country on earth? Conventional wisdom would dictate to us that Pakistan came about as a result of Muslim grievances and the fear of Hindu majority rule in post-British India. Muhammad Ali Jinnah and the All India Muslim League are given credit for tapping into this sense of victimhood that still drives much of Islamist anger around the world. However, there is more to it than meets the eye, sir. On May 5th, 1945, the day Germany surrendered, the number one act by Winston Churchill was, he sent a memo and ordered an appraisal, and I quote, "The long-term policy required to safeguard the strategic interests of the British Empire in India and the Indian Ocean." This is his letter on the day Germany surrenders. It's the significance of India in the eyes of the British, who were junior partners to the Americans. Tell me if I'm going too long.
No, that's good.
Okay. So, 2 weeks later, Churchill receives that top secret report that, among other proposals, mentioned the necessity of British presence in northwest India, which by the way today is Pakistan, quote unquote, from which the British air power could threaten Soviet military installations. When this was brought to the attention of Mahatma Gandhi and Nehru and the Congress, they made it clear they would not accept British bases on Indian soil. On the other hand, Muslim League leader Muhammad Ali Jinnah would never look away from a pound of flesh or a pound of British pound sterling or any money that came his way. That's when the Pakistan resolution comes up. 2 months later, Churchill was shockingly defeated in the debate, in the election, and Attlee comes in. Now listen to what the Labour Party Foreign Secretary says at a Labour Party convention in London in 1945. They say, "Why are you dividing India?" And Ernest Bevin, the Secretary of State, this is his exact words, defending the decision that would devastate, he said, "The division of India would help to consolidate Britain in the Middle East." That's the Labour Party convention of 1945. That's how we created Pakistan. Thus came that divide. But after partition, the Americans set up the U-2 bases from where Gary Powers flew and was shot down by the Soviet Union. No one in Pakistan knew. No one in India knew. No one would have ever known, if that U-2 had not been shot down, that an entire city existed north of Peshawar to fight communism. And that's when Khrushchev said I will wipe out Peshawar from the face of this earth. Khan Sahib might remember, he was a younger man at that time.
Much younger than my...
Yes. Today, if there is one people, a group of people who can put an end, who can put the genie back into that bottle. Because today, the USSR is dead, but Pakistan is alive and has become America's demon that successive US administrations cannot put back in the bottle. Let me introduce you to someone who can do that. They are the brave and courageous Baloch people of Pakistan and who have been fighting its civilian military establishment for over 65 years. Balochistan is currently occupied by Pakistan and Iran. My professor here was talking about the right of self-determination, the right of minorities. This is not, sir, about the right of self-determination. This is about one country occupying another country and being asked to say, get the hell out of Paris, you Hitler. Does that make sense? Or are you willing to say that the Wehrmacht can stay in Paris and let the French be minorities in a German supremacy? No. What we are telling the Pakistan army is, you have no damn business. We don't like you, we don't love you, you get the hell out of our land. As far as minorities go, having lived and worked and been imprisoned in Balochistan and understood there 40 years, I can tell you the only people on earth who can save the lives of the Shia Hazaras are not the Pakistan army, but the Baloch people of Balochistan. I'd like to conclude by saying that even this Christmas Eve, when from Manila to, right up to Memphis, people were celebrating Christmas, the Pakistan army used that to launch an operation on the city of Mashke. 72 people were killed in cold blood, and not a single newspaper west of, newspaper printed that story. Nothing existed except, and this is very significant, the Toronto Sun. And do you know what happened to the Toronto Sun? It is banned in Pakistan and you cannot go to its website in Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Iran and Pakistan. And that tells you what is the reach of the ISI. The ISI today controls the intelligence networks of Saudi Arabia and Turkey, subservient to the Pakistan-based ISI. Simply because we know at the rate at which the Toronto Sun was shut down in all these papers, because it talked of what? Balochistan and the ISI, they could not accept the fact that a tiny newspaper with about a circulation of 500,000 had dared to print a picture of Liali. They couldn't believe that why this had happened. My liberal leftist friends are so caught up in the ideological divide. They are so brain dead, so racist in their lower expectations of us, that they rather live with women beating Islamists because they are anti-American than to support the Baloch whose women have to cover their faces because they fear acid will be thrown on their faces. I want to mention the latest developments in that area, which is not just that the port of Gwadar has been handed over to China by the government of Pakistan. Not the government of Pakistan, the establishment of Pakistan. Mr. Zardari can't find his way from Larkana to Karachi by road. He wouldn't know what hit him. Poor guy, he's got his keeps his ambulance oiled up all the time with 2 collection calls, because one thing you got to say, he told them, I'll go down like Salvador Allende, not going to go down like Nawaz Sharif. That's what he did in a telephone interview. So go to give him but he can't do a damn thing anyway. Gwadar has been given to China the way a concubine determines her rates at with which she will sleep with a certain caliph in the 9th century. When a country turns to be a concubine, it goes on the market and asks for money. And whoever offers more, she will sleep with them. And that too, in the name of Islam. That's the horrendous part of it. In the name of piety, Pakistan, the land of the pure, formed on the basis of Islam, has sold itself. To who? The godless Chinese. In a country where the Chinese Communist Party said, what is this Ramadan? It goes on too long. Can't we have it just for 5-6 hours so the shift doesn't have to work? And those anti-Islamic Americans who allow Fareed Zakaria to have his fast and host the #1 TV show? No, those are the Islam haters. Those godless Chinese, they are our fathers and mothers. Why? Because the Americans are naive enough to get fooled out of the billions, and the Chinese are smart enough to rape you, and you won't know what hit you by not even giving you your billions, taking everything from you, but simply leaving behind the fact that we are anti-India. Therefore, you are our tab. But Gwadar is not the problem. The problem is the Iranian port that is being built only 100 kilometers west of Gwadar. And I'll read you exactly, sir, Congressman, for your interest. According to this is exactly from the Chinese news agency, Xinhua. Chinese submarine base in Gwadar, the news carried by the Chinese news agency that said that the new bases will extend from Bandar Abbas, a major Iranian seaport on the Strait of Hormuz, to Pasa Bandar, which is a Persianizing the word of a Baloch city into Iranian. That's a completely different story. And this is what Iran's Navy commander had to say to the United States of America. His name is Habibullah Sayari. The new mission of the Navy is to establish an impenetrable line of defense at the entrance to the Sea of Oman. If the enemy, the United States, goes insane, we will drown them at the bottom of the Indian Ocean and the Sea of Oman before they reach the Strait of Hormuz. I sincerely hope the State Department and the Secretary, John Kerry, will be able to see through the ruse of Pakistan's establishments, connections with Iran and Saudi Arabia, running both against each other at the same time, better than his predecessor. Today, many have questioned, why should the Baloch seek American support? Why are those people who are left of center, social justice activists, who have not yet forgotten that the verdict of history has come around and the Cold War is over and the Soviet Union tumbled like a brick of paper, like a house of cards? They still ask this question: is it ethical for Nuruddin Mengal or Mehran Murray or anyone to seek American or Western support for the independence? I asked this question to Mehran Murray, who I met as the youngest son of Nawab Khairbakhsh Murray, and he told me in an interview for the Toronto Sun, these are his exact words: if East Timor, Kosovo, South Sudan and Eritrea can get help from the West to gain freedom, why not Balochistan? Savoring a meal of Pakistani tikka masala at a Geneva restaurant, he told me, as you can see, I love Pakistani cuisine, but I'm not a Pakistani. I'm a Baloch seeking a dignified life for my people as free men and women. Azad Balochistan, Zindabad.